Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian. I'm fucked up on that funk punch, baby. Funk punch.
Jason making an indelible reference to this very well-known film that we're about to discuss.
That was the attempt, was to find, it's my pick, and it came down to two, something well-known and something less well-known, and I thought, let's shine a light on something that needs a little more spotlight. But as it turns out, it doesn't need it.
Yeah, I have to say that I appreciate the thinking behind that, your motivation here. I agree that it's nice to give a spotlight to a movie that maybe people haven't heard about. We are talking about the films of 2014 in this season of Awesome Movie Year, and this is Jason's pick. And I will give you credit for picking a movie that I would not have expected. So, what is the movie?
It's called Pong Summer, and it's about a kid and his fam, and they go down to Ocean City, Maryland, where I used to take vacations. Dave, you ever take a vacation down in Ocean City?
I think one summer, yeah, I think we did.
Get some Thrasher's fries, thick French fries with the vinegar on it, and everything, and walk the boardwalk, Yeah. And he mixes up with some classic rich 80s archetypes and has to beat the baddie in ping pong. So it sounds like it should be awesome.
Yeah, it's set in 1985, and it is very conscious of being set in 1985, I think. And I agree with you. I think I had not heard of this movie when you picked it, but I was looking forward to it in part because it's one of only two movies this season that I had never seen before. So always good to see something new. And because it does sound like something that I would enjoy, this kind of retro coming of age comedy. So I was fully on board with your pick until I watched the movie.
I have watched the movie before and I was fully on board with it, but diminishing returns on this rewatch. But that happens sometimes. So, we're going to own it. We're going to talk about it. It's still better than The Women.
That is a ridiculous thing to say. But it's a movie that, I mean, it's not so obscure. I think maybe in a way it's obscure because it seemed like it was going to be bigger than it was even at the time. It premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival, which, is often a launching point, as we'll discuss in our very next episode.
It's a very reputable festival, Josh.
It is.
It's
it's
Coda.
A place. Lots of
Coda
other
was
films.
from Sundance.
And so many other ones as well.
Daughters of the Dust, We've covered a few Sundance movies every now and again, Josh. Not those two per se, but others.
We've covered quite a few. We might cover those in the future, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, so this is the place where promising indie films debut. The writer-director Michael Tully had made a couple smaller films before this, and you get to Sundance, and it's like, oh, maybe you're going to have your breakout here. It's the main cast is a bunch of unknowns as the main teen characters, but it's got some familiar faces in its supporting roles, including Susan Sarandon, Leah Thompson, Amy Sedaris, John Hannah. So, solid actors. And I feel like this could have gone somewhere if it had been like, a good movie.
Well, what's interesting is, one of my favorite movies this year, another one you didn't like, but a sports movie, EFIS, right, is kind of under the radar. And the way you hear about that is by other people who have gone to festivals or critics like, oh, you got to see this movie and this and that. That's how I came across Pong Summer. I didn't just in 2014 go to the Blockbuster and see a box cover and be like, this looks good. This had some buzz behind it as like, oh, this is a little hidden gem type thing. So it wasn't just me who was championing this. It was championed to me. And I did like it on my first watch, but it doesn't really hold up as well as I had hoped.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you had been the only champion of it, I think that would have been great for us to talk about. I've been in that position probably and written articles or whatever, trying to bring people around to my position. So I think that's all good.
You guys remember when your bank says no, champion says yes.
Is that a commercial?
Yeah, we've said the word champion a lot and that got in my head.
Okay.
So
All right. We got to fill time somehow, right?
we could talk about Perillo Italian cruises if you want next.
Let's talk about Ping Pong Summer, which is the third movie this season that we've covered that was released direct to VOD. This is the least surprising, I think, of the three that was what
the
happened
theme,
to
right?
it. It's along with Riley Stearn's film Faults and the Roger Ebert documentary Life Itself. In all three cases, however, they were released day and date with some number of theaters. My guess is this was in fewer theaters than those others, but it did make $53,000 in theaters on its budget of $1.5 million. So that's not a very good number, but maybe it made up for a little bit of that on VOD. I don't know. It did not win any awards at the Sundance Film Festival, but it did win the Audience Award for Best Narrative Feature Film at the Sarasota Film Festival. Have you ever
Which
been there?
isn't no, but it's a reputable festival, you know.
All right.
As a veteran of the festival circuit, multi-time award winner, as you know, you're always keeping track of what the real ones are. This week, I asked you two guys about a Fugazi festival, just making sure that if I knew I was right or wrong. But Sarasota, that's in Florida, Josh.
It is.
You know who lived in Florida? Burt Reynolds, big movie star.
Jason just making all the connections here that he possibly can for this film. So yeah, not a big deal film, but got some coverage. It did come out in some theaters and got some reviews. It got mixed reviews from critics. I don't want to be so down on this to make it seem like nobody liked this movie. In addition to Jason and whoever recommended it to you, critics were again, mixed on it. It has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is right on the cusp. And looking through there, a lot of the reviews that Rotten Tomatoes labeled negative are virtually indistinguishable from the reviews that Rotten Tomatoes has labeled positive, all of which are basically like, it was okay. So...
Well, we love hidden gems here on Awesome Movie Year. So, if nothing else, hopefully this will inspire our audience to recommend some hidden gems to us under the radar, like little indies. I love when we find those. Speaking of Sundance, I think back to our 1989 season, True Love, the Nancy Sakova film, which is one of the more memorable films that we've covered here on Awesome Movie Year, and that's a hidden gem.
Yeah, I mean, especially going back to earlier days of Sundance, covering the winners there has allowed us to talk about movies like True Love or Old Enough, the Marissa Silver movie that we covered, that are not necessarily all that well known. As Sundance has gotten bigger, as we'll see this season, the Sundance winner is usually a more famous film, but it's cool to check those out as well.
Nancy Savoca, Josh.
Yes.
I switched those two letters around and came up with a whole new name.
Who knows who that is? So
she's the director of Ping Pong Summer too.
Right? Yeah, that's coming. The unrelated. It's good, like one of those Universal 44 sequels.
Yeah, or American Psycho 2. We'll just shoehorn it in.
Yeah, a lot of those. So, Jeanette Katsoulis, former Las Vegas film critic in the New York Times, said, "From its Revenge of the Nerd narrative to its soaked-in nostalgia style, Ping Pong Summer revisits the 1980s with such slavish affection that you suspect its writer and director, Michael Tully, of being notably transformed during those boombox-blighted years. The film fairly beams with the afterglow of lost virginity. Whatever the case, this gentle comedy, while entirely unmemorable, releases a genuine warmth that deflects harsh judgment. It doesn't, however, excuse characters that are little more than props for embarrassing fashion or delivery systems for dated slang. The attention to detail is impressive, but even parachute pants need somewhere interesting to go."
I don't know why she brought the virginity thing up. That has nothing to do with this, and I don't really think matches as an analogy at all. Do you?
Yeah, I think she's trying to maybe say that Michael Tully lost his virginity.
Or teen sex comedies in the 80s were all about losing your virginity, but this one has nothing to do with that.
Right. We can presume that our main character, Rad Miracle, is a virgin, but it doesn't actually come up.
That is one of the issues of the film, is that it's something that we don't like. And to me, the most egregious example recently was Captain Marvel, which was set in the 90s. And it's like, hey, here's a thing from the 90s. Here's a thing from the 90s. Look, it's from the 90s, as opposed to like imparting it as part of the story, which this does sometimes. And sometimes it's just showcasing it. Like, I love details. We need all the details. But, for instance, the guy's working on like his sweet breakdance move, which he incorporates into his ping pong serve. So that's cool. But some of the other stuff is just there because it was, hey, this is the 80s, right?
Yeah, it does seem like he's trying to cram in as many of those things as possible. And I also like, to me, I have not been to Ocean City, Maryland. And in fact, for the majority of the time I watched this movie, I thought they were on the Jersey Shore. So
but that's not a bad comparison, because those beach towns, in South Jersey, it's Jersey Shore, and then you get to like Rehoboth and Bethany Beach and Delaware, and then you get to Maryland with like Ocean City, and it keeps going. But it's very much boardwalk towns. As someone who vacationed there, and as I can tell you from my research, this is the first film to shoot in Ocean City since 1986. It was an accurate looking depiction of Ocean City and those other beach towns that you're discussing.
Yeah.
You ever go to Rehoboth, Josh?
I have not been to any of those. I don't think
Wildwood?
I went to college in Massachusetts, but I don't think I ever went to the beach during those years. So I'm not a beach guy. I rarely ever went to the beach when I lived in Southern California.
When was the last time you were at a beach?
Probably on a mandated summer camp trip when I was still living in California, when I was like 12 or something like that would be my guess.
Dave, Beach, Dave?
Like a year ago, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Dave's...
We're going tomorrow at the time of this recording.
I love it. Dave's, Jewish guy from the East Coast, so he's got that chest hair and he wears the Speedo and he's got the shiny gold chain. Josh, it's a look, man.
I don't know if that's what it is, but okay, whatever you're comfortable with. What I was going to say though is that I appreciate the specificity of like the Ocean City details that aren't just like, here's a song from the 80s or here's some, piece of fashion that you remember from the 80s, but like, here's this very particular like restaurant or game or thing that they did in Ocean City in the 80s. And that makes it feel more personal.
Yeah. I mean, to me, all of those are like, if you were building a boardwalk town, you would have a version of that. So to me, that makes it's not as personal in that it's more just part of the form. But I like that aspect of it too. Those, you would go, whatever town had the buffet and the salad bar, and looking back, probably all pretty gross.
Yeah, I mean, there's that long tracking shot across the buffet that I think is probably meant to make you feel grossed out about it.
No, I think it's the opposite.
To me.
Right. I think it's the opposite of like, especially as a kid, you're like, whoa, look at all the choices.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The idea that the characters are into it, but as viewers, we maybe are meant to look on it as kind of gross. But I have the taste of a 14-year-old or whatever when it comes to eating. So I would have enjoyed that buffet probably.
You would just go macaroni and cheese all day. I
do
maybe
love
a
macaroni
slice of
and
pizza
cheese
or two.
Yeah, that sounds good. Justin Chang in Variety said, mixing 1 part good-natured mockery to 2 parts affectionate 80s nostalgia with a dash of Pixie Sticks powder for good measure, Ping Pong Summer is a sweetly amusing ode to the underdog sports movies that proliferated during that widely derided decade. The plotting is desultory and predictable, the white trash beach town humor often draggy and one note. At the same time, those lackadaisical qualities feel entirely appropriate, even germane, to the film's easy-to-lampoon, easy-to-love milieu. Even when the movie's energy flags, its charm somehow never does, pulling us into a nostalgic haze that feels no less pleasant for being somewhat lazy and indulgent.
Yeah, when I was on Letterboxd the other day, where I'm go for Jason, I looked at Josh's Letterboxd review of it, and he was saying, you were saying something along the lines of like whether the acting, which I think you just say is flat out bad.
All that, like, other than by the like famous ringers, the acting is terrible in this movie.
So to me, I mean, the awkwardness was part of the charm the first time I watched it, and I think that's kind of what this review is getting at, but upon a rewatch, it's not as charming.
Yeah, I didn't find it charming. And I even saw some people singling out the actor who plays the main character's best friend, Teddy, or Tedwardo. He's so terrible.
I know. And I like that the first time I saw it. I mean, we talk about like The Room and everything, and it's just like, he's not a good actor. And it was so kind of fun the first time I saw it because I'm like, he's making real choices here.
I don't know if he is, or if he's just doing whatever comes in his head at the first moment.
Well, that's a choice. That's an instinct, right?
Yeah.
So, it's, but it's interesting to watch now.
Yeah, that's the one way to describe it. So finally, Peter Hartlaub in the San Francisco Chronicle said, writer-director Michael Tully simultaneously pays tribute to his own 1980s childhood and the cliched movies he grew up watching. And the result is one of the most honestly dishonest movies you'll ever watch. Every plot turn will be telegraphed for anyone who has viewed The Karate Kid or any of its sequels and knockoffs. And yet the cultural immersion is so impressively detailed that the memories start to feel like the viewer's own. Tully approaches these memories without malice, instead paying a sort of tribute to the carefree time. The center of the universe delusion of being a young teen is captured throughout Pong Summer, even when the actual narrative is on autopilot.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, that was one of the more fun elements of the movie. Teddy and our main character are sitting there and Rad Miracle. And they're having like soft serve ice cream, looking out at the ocean, and they're like, best summer ever. And it's like, you do get that sense of the nostalgia of like, hey man, the good, the bad, everything else. In the end, we had a real experience this summer. And, I love movies like that from the 80s. So maybe that's what attracted me to it. As we've talked about a lot, Better Off Dead, the Savage Steve Holland movie, which is not one of these. But his other movie, One Crazy Summer, is a perfect example of that. And I just love stuff like that. So, maybe I just want that for myself, Josh.
Right. I mean, I think that's what this is sort of getting at, is like the idea of nostalgia just in and of itself being appealing. Like maybe, if you watch this movie, you didn't necessarily go to Ocean City, Maryland as a kid. You didn't necessarily grow up in the 80s. You didn't have these specific experiences, but you can connect it to whatever experiences you did have growing up that were like, important or special to you.
Right. You went to camp, you went to a lake, whatever it is.
Right.
Honestly, I'd wear those parachute pants today. If you could get me a pair of those, I would rock those right now.
I believe it. We're a little too young. Like in 1985, we were small children, but not that long afterwards, when I feel like it was slightly different, but the like MC Hammer parachute pants were a thing. I had a pair of those, and I don't know if I ever actually even wore them. I think my mom probably bought them for me, and I thought that was cool, but I don't know if I ever had the confidence to wear them outside the house.
I would love to see that so much.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, Josh, of those type of pants, do you remember Skids? They were like the Zubaz pants, which I also probably had. Skids were like that kind of puffy style. Parachute pants are like shiny and a little cooler. The Skids are a little more like the ones you're talking about, the kind of MC Hammer pants with all these crazy patterns. And again, would wear today if I had them right now. Back east, the one that I didn't wear, but that were all the rage, the jeans version of that, Z Cavaricis, which is the most East Coast Italian name you could ever give a pair of pants. That was very popular. So I like all this stuff. The parachute pants, especially like in this, I'm like, those are stylish, comfortable. I'd wear those on stage. I'm good to go, man.
Jason has a bolder fashion sense, certainly, than I do. I kind of stick to my one thing, and it works out well for me.
And can we just say thank you, Josh, for calling what I do as a fashion sense?
Yeah.
I know it. We've had many instances where I get some sort of ridiculous promotional item, and I know I'm going to give this hat or shirt or get glasses to Jason, and he will wear it because I know he's bold like that.
Well, a fun story like that is a few years ago, my family friend Seth, who I don't care for at all, got married, and at his wedding in New York City, it was the middle of the summer, and the invitation, it was like a pop-up wedding in the middle of a park. My dad officiated it, and we all went, and the wedding invitation said dressed dress fresh to death. So it was up to you. So everyone was wearing a stylish suit. And I was like, it's summer. It's New York City. I'm going to wear shorts, a short sleeve shirt, and a tie. And everyone was like, how could you wear this to a wedding? How could you wear that to a wedding? That's totally inappropriate. And like a year later, the Miami Heat were all wearing suits after their championship win with shorts. So point is, I'm a fashion maverick, and it's
a trendsetter.
Yeah, exactly. A fashionista. R.I.P. Seth. Sorry you got hit by that train.
I hope Seth listens to this podcast. So, Jason, when did you didn't watch this in 2014, but you kind of discovered it some point later on?
I knew about it, and I think, back in the day, a lot of the indie movies would go to Showtime, which, like, talk about how badly do they screw up a platform or a network at this point in time? Like, you can't even find anything on Showtime anymore.
I don't think Showtime you can't even find Showtime on Showtime anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm. Garbage. It's just garbage. Everything Paramount's doing other than South Park right now, garbage. But I knew it was, and then it was on there, and it's like, 90-minute fun summer movie. Like, I watched it, and the first time I really did enjoy it. Like, oh yeah, this is a cool little indie Sundance weird comedy, that I like. I love stuff like that. And that's why when it came around this time, what it came down to for me was this or Boyhood, which was probably my favorite movie of this year. And Richard Linklater is one of my top 3 directors. And we haven't covered him on this show, which is so stupid. We're terrible at our jobs.
But we have now covered Michael Tully.
Right. Yeah. But my thought was there's going to be a billion chances for us to cover a Linklater movie. And maybe we will this year. Maybe we will another year. But but this is the only chance we're going to get to cover Ping Pong Summer, Josh.
Right. No, and I was in agreement with you on that, really, because I think that's absolutely true. And that's been the case for a lot of major directors where it's come down to, like, do we talk about this film or maybe something lesser known, and we'll give a shot to something like that because we always have a chance to come back to cover some of these major filmmakers. So I supported your decision at the time. And I still do, even though I didn't like this movie.
That means the world to me.
Yes. So, Dave, had you heard of this at all?
Had not heard of it, but it definitely fits, right in the kind of things that I like, these quirky little indie comedies. And yeah, I mean, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. Like, it's just kind of there, and it's just not as funny as it needs to be, or sweet as it needs to be, or just good as it needs to be.
I'm with Dave. I liked it more than you, Josh. But they just need to turn up the volume on everything, right?
Yeah.
To use something from the 80s, they need to pump up the volume on this stuff. Although that was probably the 90s.
Yeah, I think that was like maybe 90 or 91, but
yeah.
Sure. Close enough. So anything else you want to say about the background of this film, Jason?
Josh, at the Westwood Swim Club, I, along with my group of friends one summer, was ranked the #1 ping pong player in the group, but a conspiracy against me had those quote unquote friends of mine drop me to the 8th seed behind Trevor Hodges, who was terrible. We all know who the real champ is. Matt Caporletti will back me up on that. He's a good guy.
Really getting into the weeds here with Jason's childhood in this episode. We'll come back and talk more of our general thoughts on Ping Pong Summer. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2014, we are talking about Jason's pick, Michael Tully's Ping Pong Summer. And Jason, one thing I wanted to get to that we kind of were alluding to earlier, Justin Chang, I feel like, almost gets to this in his review for Variety, and you mentioned what I had said on Letterboxd, and there was one Letterboxd person. And when I was watching this movie, I think I paused it in the middle at one point, and I had been looking through Letterboxd, and I saw this review, and I could not get it out of my head as I watched the rest of the movie. This guy, and as far as I could tell, was the only person who said this, basically claimed that this movie is a parody of the the 1980s coming of age story. And I was like, I don't like this movie, but as I was watching the second half, there were so many moments when I thought, this is so stupid that the only way I can buy into this filmmaker doing this is that he's trying to make fun of it in a really, really, really deadpan way, like a Norm Macdonald joke kind of way, and failing. So what do you think of this?
Yeah, I disagree completely. I think if he was failing, it was at the homage of the 80s. So that's what this is, a real love letter to it, but maybe it's because it doesn't execute on the level that you want. that it doesn't get there. But to me, I didn't take any of this as a parody. Right from the jump, I think tonally that would be wrong, because right, the opening shot, you see Rad and he's doing breakdance, and like the dude next to him is an old guy in a like riding mower, and he rides it into the tree. And like, if that was the type of humor they were going to impart in the whole movie, then I could see that as being like a slapstick parody, this or that. But those moments were few and far between. I think he was trying to play this as like a earnest homage, and the 80s had a lot of silliness, and that's part of what this is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you are probably right, but my perspective was like, this is the only way that this movie is interesting. And there were moments that were so like on the nose with like the basics of these kinds of movies. Like later in the movie, Susan Sarandon plays his like weird neighbor who turns out to be a former ping pong champion.
Randy Jammer.
Randy Jammer. She becomes his like Mr. Miyagi in the last part of the movie. And when she's training him, like, he's like, will you train me? And she's like, yeah, I just need a day to do it, and they do that. And then her like mantra to him is ball making contact, which is just literally describing what ping pong is. And I felt like stuff like that, I was like, this is so obviously dumb that maybe it's trying to make fun of this kind of thing.
Yeah, if it did, then it was only in that part. Like, I didn't get that anywhere else. So that's where I'm having the issue with that, So.
I almost want to rewatch this now under that lens, because you remember last year that movie Miller's Girl with Jenna Ortega that I loved. And the reason I loved it is because I really, truly believe that movie is a parody of like steamy, sexy thrillers. And that's not how anybody else took it. And I thought that movie was hilarious beginning to end as this kind of send up of those things. And so I love that idea of like reading it in this totally different way, but I did not get that at all from the movie.
Yeah, and I feel like, Dave, you are like the parody guy. And if you didn't get it from the movie, then it's probably not there. I just wanted it to be. And this one guy on Letterboxd almost convinced me.
You're calling him the parody guy, but he literally just said he's the only one who thought Miller's Girl was a parody.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. He's the guy who finds a parody where no one else finds it.
You're the deep state of the parodies, Dave.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it made me think of, Dave, have you seen the Will Ferrell, Kristen Wiig Lifetime movie where it's so deadpan that it's like, this is indistinguishable from a regular Lifetime movie? That's kind of what it made me think of.
Yeah. And it could have been like, like we said already, this could have been like a real wistful, coming of age kind of thing. They could have went in that direction, or they could have gone more parody like. There is some, Emmi Sedaris is in the freaking movie. So, it could have gone in a much more slapsticky direction, but it just kind of just sits in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm just still trying to wrap my head around, like, are we doing like 2 scenes of parody and then the rest of it we're taking seriously? Like, because I like the parody to me, like, okay, you have the bad guy who they're playing ping pong against, and his best friend is like the fat redhead, because there's always a fat redhead.
Right. And there was, Jason, I know you always get on me for saying this, but they're super gay. Are they not? the bully and his sidekick?
Well, the sidekick is definitely into him. And honestly, if you were going to do that as the parody, you could push that a little further too.
Right.
But, he's just that like yes man, and his insults are lame. And I could say like, yes, that's a heightened version of like the bad guy sidekick we saw in the 80s. But I just don't think there's enough there that would convince me that this whole thing was a parody. But I do like the discussion point. The Emmi Sedaris thing is she's just in there for one scene, and she doesn't really do much except say like, hey, if you want to tan correctly, you got to put the sun by your vagina in your own way. That's kind of what she's saying there, and it's just not, it just is a joke that falls flat, not a parody to me.
Yeah, no, and to be clear, I'm not saying it's a good parody. I'm saying I wondered if it was attempting to be a parody and thus failing in a different way than I thought it was failing as I started to watch it.
Well, when we covered The Room, right, we talked about how after all of the Tommy Wiseau stuff came out, and he was like, of course it's a comedy, and everything like that. Yeah. But this is a comedy. So I'm trying to think in my mind right now of a movie that's a parody that wouldn't be considered a parody, and I haven't been able to come up with one. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought of that Lifetime movie because if you don't know that that movie is supposed to be a parody, you could watch, and you maybe haven't heard of Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig, you could watch that movie and just think this is just a crappy Lifetime movie. And if someone tells you it's a parody, it's almost like they didn't make a parody, they just ironically made a bad movie. And I think
Well,
that was the thing that came to mind.
right. So that's not a parody. Again, that to me is like a loving, whether it's an homage or an attempt at the same thing. That's not a parody. I don't know. Maybe in my mind, I think parody, I think more stuff, when we talk about like Christopher Guest or send ups of genres or Mel
Right.
Brooks, and that might be. But so to me, it's tough to say like a parody is something that is an exact replication of something, as
Right,
opposed to your own version of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's also like why I mentioned Norm Macdonald, because Norm Macdonald will just fully deadpan tell an incredibly long, incredibly corny joke, and it is hilarious because of sort of the commitment that he makes to it. And that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking of, maybe.
Well, Norm's a great example from a movie standpoint because I had just rewatched Dirty Work maybe a year ago. I'm like, dude, this is an anti-movie. Like he's
Right.
undercutting everything in this, like trying to just like not make this a movie at all. And that's its own form of, kind of, I guess, Adult Swim type humor. I know, Josh, you don't like Tim and Eric or like
Yeah.
Steve Brule stuff that I love, but I think that kind of almost gravitates more towards that aspect of humor. But I don't get that from this at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the kind of humor I would think of. And, like the whole idea which you were referencing at the very beginning of the, what is it, like funky punch or funk
Funk
punch?
Punch.
That which I assume is not a real thing, that they say that the Rad's sort of love interest, she's always drinking this like she's an addict. And it's basically just like a bunch of like sugary sodas and actual sugar. And they claim they're like, oh, there's cocaine in it, but there's not. And it's just so stupid and then they take it semi-seriously because there's a scene where she like secretly takes her drink into the bathroom and dumps some white powder into it. And you think, oh, is she like an actual cocaine addict? And then he kind of confronts her about it. And she's like, no, that's just pixie sticks. And I'm off the sugar now. And like, I like, from what angle is that meant to be funny?
Well, I mean, so first of all, they did do some real things of that time period, like when he goes into the convenience store and he gets or he orders the drink at the Fun Hub and it's a kamikaze and it's
Right,
just
a
mixing all the
suicide.
sodas
Yeah.
right at once. So I think it's funny in regards to that we all grew up with the hearing about. I tried snorting a pixie stick once. Like I did because
Really?
that's what I heard about. It doesn't feel good.
No, I think I remember people snorting Crystal Light for some reason. That's probably just
right.
as awful.
So you're saying, and Mikey and the Pop Rocks and this and that. So the idea is that like Pixie Sticks is its own addiction or whatever. But I think the humor is that every time she brings up the Funk Punch, he brings up like, so are you on cocaine? Which I got a good laugh at once or twice. So,
yeah,
that's where I got to that place with that joke. But yeah, I get it if it didn't work for you.
right. Well, I mean, again, it wasn't even just that it didn't work, that I was like, what is the thought process behind even like coming up with this? And that's why, or like the climax where he has the big ping pong match with the bully is so unbelievably tedious that I felt like it was like anti-comedy. It's like the Bob Sideshow Bob rake joke from The Simpsons, where you do the same thing over and over and over again for so long that it goes from annoying to like avant-garde.
What? I keep saying everything with like I'm clearly on the defense stand. Well, Your Honor.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
I didn't mind it. I mean, it definitely took the like, hey, guys beating me, everyone's watching, coach has to give me the secret words of wisdom so I can win type thing. And I didn't think it was shot badly. So, if you feel like it was too long, I can understand that. But I think part of that is probably you were just checked out of the movie by then too.
I mean, that's true. And it is the end. And also the weird, like the movie ends so abruptly. I mean, and I guess maybe that's a Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's a definite 80s.
Yeah,
trope, right?
yeah. Where like there's no epilogue, there's no resolution. He wins the match and then there's an immediate freeze frame and the movie's over. But if in some way I cared about like if he's going to get the girl or whatever, like you just leave all that hanging there at the end. So that was sort of underwhelming after all that time too.
I mean, he gave her a little smooch at
He
the
did.
game. So,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
was she even worth it though, Josh?
No, and that like her characterization is so inconsistent because she's like, is she the stuck up rich girl? And then she's like making out with the bully, and then she's just like, she never rejects the bully per se. She just kind of floats through the movie. And it's like the movie doesn't really care about his relationship with her. I mean, his relationship with Teddy, the best friend, gets far more screen time, and they have a whole moment where they sort of have a falling out, and then they have to make up and all this stuff. And that's fine. I mean, I would have cared more if those actors were less terrible, I think. But there's allusions to like Teddy's kind of maybe not abusive, but distant and not very nice father. Like a whole bunch of stuff that just is either dropped or is a joke that I didn't get, or I don't know.
I mean, I didn't get abusive or even not very nice. He might have been aloof or like not very attentive. But again, Teddy's our side character, right? So I don't know how
Yeah.
much you need from him, from the dad there. So I don't know. I think I just took it much more like on the surface, and you're looking for deeper meaning. And Josh, there is no deeper meaning to this film. I think it's just Tully trying to go back and be like, remember all the fun that I had growing up? Well, this is my version of it. And for us, it wasn't as fun as for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like that's the kind of thing that I could and would enjoy. And I will say this movie has a nice look. It's shot on 16 millimeter and it perfectly captures the nostalgic feel, but also shooting it that way as opposed to on like more pristine film gives you also a bit of the grubbiness of Ocean City, because I think the idea that we're meant to get is like this is a vacation place, but it's also sort of like the third tier vacation place. Like this is where you go for vacation if you're not all that rich. And
How
so
dare you, sir?
I liked that about it. They stay in this weird house that they get a deal on, and there's some weird naked old guy there when they first show up and all that kind of stuff. I feel like they were trying to do an almost Clark Griswold thing with the dad, who's, he's kind of cheap, and that's why he got them this place, or they have to drive. He's a state trooper and they have to drive down in his patrol car because it saves them a tank of gas, and all he has to do is like pull people over if he sees them speeding or something. And again, there was more that they could have done there that they didn't.
Part of the issue there is that those characters just disappear for 2/3 of the film after you see them in the beginning, right? So I used to, besides those beach towns, we went up to Saratoga Springs in New York, which is a lake town. And I remember once we basically, there wasn't an old naked guy, but we rented a cabin, and looking back, it had to be some really good deal, but it was a terrible place and smelled bad. And, so, I don't know. I think that's more prevalent on the East Coast, doing like these, summer vacation 4 days or a week in like little rental hubs like that, as opposed to hotels or stuff. Dave's from Pennsylvania. The Poconos would be another element of that. So I think part of that is just that's where, going way back, right? People come from Ellis Island and they're working in the city and working hard, and maybe you can only get away by car at that point in time for a weekend, and that's how the Catskills were birthed, right? So you build what you can, whether it's little cabins or little kind of vacation shacks. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but just small kind of places that people can bop to and from. And that's an East Coast thing, but ping pong is universal.
Yes, it is. So, but they didn't spend a week. They spent the whole summer, right?
Which is insane to spend the whole summer. Did you ever? That's so cool that you could spend a whole summer there, to anywhere, I guess. So,
yeah.
What kind of job as a police trooper can you get a whole summer off?
I know. I was wondering. I mean, when you said like it's true, the parents, they kind of disappear, and I'm sure in part that's because John Hannah and Leah Thompson probably only had limited shooting days on this very small film. But I wonder if part of that we don't really get is that the dad is going back to his job like during the week or something like that, and we don't see whether or not the mom has a job, or at least I missed that. So maybe the kids, because they're out of school, they can spend the whole summer there. And maybe the mom can too, to keep an eye on them because she's a stay-at-home mom. But maybe the dad's going off to work during the week. I don't really know.
Right. That would have been a good thing to say. I definitely did not get the impression that Leah Thompson had a job. Also, don't know why she chose to do a Southern accent for this character. That was kind of out of the blue for me.
I didn't even notice that.
Well, she definitely did an accent there.
Okay.
When I was growing up, my grandfather was a well-known comedian and very well-known in the Catskills. So we had a summer house in the Catskills. They did. And we would go and we could spend a good amount of the summer or all summer there. And my dad would go to work and stay at our house in New Jersey and then drive up on the weekends. And there's a famous story about how my dad would drive up on the weekends and he would get sick every weekend and he would have like these terrible migraines. And my mom would be like, "You don't love us. You don't want to be with us. You hate spending time with your family." What it turned out to be is every morning my dad, drinks coffee and my grandma was only making decaf coffee. So he was going through coffee withdrawals all weekend for a full summer. And my mom took it as just him not wanting to be with us.
Nice.
See, now this is a specific element from a childhood that I feel like is lacking in this film, that's not a cliche. That's a fun anecdote that we just don't get here.
I mean, clearly the big win of this movie is now we can write our summer house movie about my childhood at Sackett Lake.
I can't wait to collaborate with you on that. So, Dave, you like this a little more than I did. Is there anything you liked about it that we haven't mentioned?
I mean, I thought that there were some funny moments, but again, they're just too far and few between. I think everything that you guys have been talking about so far, we're all kind of on the same page, even if me and Jason liked it a little bit more than you. I did want to ask Jason, you're a food guy. Would that really happen if you bit into a microwaved egg? Would it squirt out the yolk?
I think it could happen, Dave.
Yeah.
I think it could.
I was curious about that.
Yeah. I mean, I assume you've never done that because it's the wrong way to do it. I'm
not a hard-boiled egg guy to begin with, but I just want to believe in the magic of movies, so I'm going to say yes to it.
Me too. Okay. Me too.
Did you like the sweet freestyle rapping?
I mean, I guess I should also mention there's some good music in here. Just throw back to that era.
I feel like the fact that this movie cost $1.5 million is probably because they spent a large portion of that on licensing
100%.
surprisingly well-known songs for the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You mentioned that movie from Sundance that we covered in '84, and every time they were walking on the boardwalk, it felt like one of those songs that was in that film when they were walking on the streets of New York.
Oh, Old Enough? Yeah.
Yeah.
A better coming of age film, I think. But yeah, the freestyle rapping is terrible. I mean, it's supposed to be terrible, right? But it's still pretty painful to listen to.
Teddy he has some line deliveries that are just insane. Let's play some ping pong.
I mean, it's possible that Michael Tully directed that guy to do it that way, but I don't know.
It's possible that he just thought this dude is so offbeat. I think whatever he says is funny, and I'm just going to let him go.
We will never know. So should we rate this out of 5 ping pong paddles? Which, by the way, Rad Miracle carries his ping pong paddle with him at all times. Just to be ready.
That's cool.
I respect that, you know. As the former number 1 player at the Westwood Swim Club, and you all know it, I can tell you that's okay with me.
All right.
I still gave it 3. I liked it enough. I'm probably being a little nicer to it than I should. 2.5 is probably fair.
Yeah, I gave it 2. I really tried to get on some kind of wavelength, obviously, whatever that might be. And it just did not do anything for me. So 2 ping pong paddles. Dave, how do you rate this?
I'm going to give it the 3 and I'm going to stick with it, although I still didn't love it.
All right. Well, we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Ping Pong Summer. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2014, we are talking about Jason's pick, Ping Pong Summer. And this movie doesn't have much of a legacy because it didn't really make much of an impact. Michael Tully, the writer-director, has continued to work. He made a horror movie called Don't Leave Home, and his most recent film was a filmed version of Suzanne Vega's one-woman stage show, Lover Beloved. So that's something.
Why wouldn't they call that Left of Center? Of all the Michael Tully movies out there, the one I would want to see is another music documentary, Silver Jew, about the lead singer of the Silver Jews.
Yeah, which I think is like a short film. But I mean, he's also occasionally acting in indie productions, and he's out there. But not this was not the breakthrough that he probably hoped when he got into Sundance, and he still has not had that breakthrough.
Big breakthrough role for Leah Thompson and Susan Sarandon, who were beneath the surface before this came out and are now well-known names.
Yeah. I mean, Leah Thompson, at this phase in her career, from this and going forward, she really is in tons of these sort of indie film supporting roles, showing up as like the mom or like a mentor or something like that. She directed one of those, The Year of Spectacular Men, with her daughters, which is all right. And I mean, she does a lot of TV directing and TV acting. She was a regular on Switched at Birth. So, I mean, when she shows up here, it's like she's famous, but it's like at the level of what she's been doing, I think, as opposed to Susan Sarandon, who is a reach for this kind of film.
Well, there are two things that we have to make mention of here, Josh. You know who Leah Thompson's husband is, right?
Yeah, Howard Deutsch, who, of course, directed these kinds of movies in the 80s.
Right. And I think probably directed her in Some Kind of Wonderful, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he was the huge teenage coming of age, kind of director in the Hughes camp. Pretty in Pink, probably his most famous film, I would guess there. And as for Susan Sarandon, Josh, she'll gobble up anything ping pong related. Pun or innuendo intended. Wink, wink.
Yeah, at the time that this movie was made, and you have to assume this was part of the reason they were able to get her to be in the movie, she was dating Jonathan Bricklin, the co-founder of the chain of ping pong lounges called Spin. And Wikipedia says she is the co-owner of the New York and Toronto locations. My guess is she is no longer the co-owner of those. They broke up in 2015, but she was like Mrs. Ping Pong during this period.
And when they make the 2014 or 15 spoof movies, what they're going to do is have ping pong lounges, which are not as prevalent anymore.
Although I looked up and Spin still exists, has multiple locations. And in fact, if Susan Sarandon is the co-owner of a New York location, I don't even know which one because it has 2 New York locations. So it's still out there. And I was just clicking through, and at least at the Toronto one, you want to reserve 1 hour of one ping pong table at Spin in Toronto, it's like $60.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
When I wanted to play ping pong at the Westwood Swim Club, it was probably like $1.25.
And that sounds about right. I remember playing ping pong I was bad at ping pong. I would have lost in your tournament, Jason, but it was a summer camp staple included.
I can be very honest about my skill set, Josh. Ping pong, probably tops. Tetherball, very good at. Air hockey, also tops. Foosball, less so. And then once we get to pool, you're going to just rock me. I'm not a good pool player.
Yeah, I'm bad at almost all those things, although I was not too bad at foosball. I feel like that was my one of choice when it came to those, if it was, at camp or whatever. But
well, what about Dave? Because the only things I ever know from Dave's athletic past is when Sonny Rosen posts pictures of him in his karate gi.
That is something you will see. I like playing pool. I'm not great, but I guess it sounds like I'll beat you, Jason.
Yeah, you would. Especially if you're wearing your karate gi.
That may happen. Let's make it happen.
So, I mean, virtually none of these teen actors in this film went on to do anything. Marcello Conte, who plays Rad Miracle, Myles Massey, who plays Teddy, Joseph McCaughtry plays the bully, Helena Seabrook, who plays Rad's kind of goth sister, Andy Riddle plays the bully's possibly repressed homosexual sidekick. Either have literally 0 other credits or like 3 or 4 very, very small, like uncredited or, short films or things like that. So not a breakthrough for any of these people, shockingly.
Michael Tully is so far ahead at discovering talent that no one else has discovered this talent, even though he put them all in the same movie.
The only one who seems to have done much of anything is Emmi Shockley, who plays the love interest. And
Stacy?
she has, exactly. She has directed some short films and recently produced an indie feature film called Thruple.
That's a trending thing right now. Why not?
Yeah, so maybe she'll lap Michael Tully as an indie filmmaker. Who knows?
Maybe she should just brand Funk Punch.
Yeah, I mean, was that like, I feel like, is that like an urban legend thing? Did you hear of this when you were a kid, Jason?
I think if you're going down the parody route, that could be something else of like, Pop Rocks and Coca-Cola. And I don't know Funk Punch, but I'm sure there were things out there like it.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the Suicide, when he orders that, where they mix all the fountain drinks or whatever, I definitely remember. I don't think I ever ordered it, but I remember doing that at like fast food places or whatever.
I used to get them and they were never good.
Yeah, no, that was like way that 12-year-olds thought they were seeming cool or whatever, but don't exactly enjoy drinking those. So John Hannah, I should mention, he's a big character actor. I remember him from a long recurring role on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on TV, but he's in a tons of film and TV roles. Definitely like recognizable, but maybe unlike Leah Thompson or Susan Sarandon, you wouldn't necessarily know his name right away, but he's been in a million things. So anything else you want to say about the legacy of this film, Jason?
Go out and watch it right away, everybody.
No, do not. But as Jason said, perhaps share a different hidden gem with us.
If you've seen this and you think we're wrong, let us know. But definitely, we want to know your hidden gems. Tell us what you love.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Josh, recommend a hidden gem for us right now.
I hadn't prepared a hidden gem to recommend, so nothing comes to mind right now. But I'm sure there's a lot. If I could just,
I think we've covered a few good ones. Goon was a great hidden gem. I love Trees Lounge. That's a hidden gem. One we haven't covered that I don't know if it holds up, but I used to love. The Search for One-Eyed Jimmy. I'll throw that one out there too.
I remember seeing that. I feel like one of my picks when we talked about Night of the Comet, although that's gotten a much bigger cult following lately, but that to me was a hidden gem when I first saw it. And I know, Jason, you didn't care for it, but I still.
It was all right.
Yeah.
It was all right, Josh.
It's better than Ping Pong Summer.
Dave, you got any hidden gems for us?
We've brought it up before, but Diggers, that's a hidden gem.
That is a great one.
Yeah, that is a really good one. And I feel like even though those are adult characters, it captures that kind of wistfulness that this movie fails to capture.
Yeah, not a parody, but an homage.
Right. And like a good movie, just like straight up about like characters that you can care about that seem like interesting people to watch their lives, which none of that occurs in this film.
Good work, Dave.
All right.
So that is Ping Pong Summer, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can check us out online and on social media.
AwesomeMovieYear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and the Gram. Still not on Twitter because we hate racists. Blah, blah, blah. I'm Jason Harris Comedy or Jay Harris Comedy on all the things. Eat This Comedy. We're doing things. Trivia nights. We're doing things. Find me at Letterboxd. Go for Jason.
You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I am at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And if you're on Letterboxd and for some reason you watch this film or any of the better films that we've discussed on the show, tag your review Awesome Movie Year. We would love to know what you think. And check out our producer David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on social media at Piecing Pod.
Jason, what's in our next episode?
Josh, we're not staying in Ocean City, but we are staying in Sundance. We're going to the Sundance Film Festival winner. It's a film called Whiplash.
So tune in next time for Whiplash, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.